You know you're German when you can get really excited about bread, just like me. When we live abroad, we are basically looking for the perfect bread recipe all the time. I have found it already, and I'm gonna share this recipe with you today. So this beautiful bread here, let me show it a little better. This is my absolute favorite bread. I bake it all the time, and it's very easy to make. The ingredients that you need for this recipe are water, spelt flour, rye flour, bread flour, several seeds which are pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, and flax seeds. Then you'll also need some balsamic vinegar and some salt and 1.5 package of instant yeast. And the quantities are, like always, on the blog post. There's a printable recipe, and you can switch between the metric measurements and the US customary measurements. However, when it comes to baking, I would always suggest you use the metric measurements because it's more accurate. When I convert from the metric to the US customary measurements, there's always a little bit to round up or down, and it's not as precise. So if you want the best outcome, just stick to the metric measurements, use a scale. They're so cheap, they're like $10, maybe 12, and they're a good investment for cooking and baking German recipes. I will bake this bread in my bread maker today, but I will also explain how you can use your regular oven to make this bread. I recently had the situation that I lost one of these little paddles of my bread maker when I gave half of a bread to my son in College Station and forgot to take it out. So I was sitting here with only one paddle and had to realize that I can't bake a bread with my bread maker. So I had to do it with a regular loaf pan, and it worked out. It was, though, a little more dry than when I bake it in this bread maker, so the outcome in the bread maker was a little better. But if you feel like your bread comes out a little too dry from a regular bread pan, then just add a little more water next time. I like to be very precise with the measurements. I measured the water on the scale to 500 grams, which is equal to 500 milliliters. And that goes in first in my baking pan here. And if you're baking with a regular oven, you just start with putting the water into a large bowl. Then I'm adding the other liquid, which is the vinegar. The vinegar increases the taste of the bread, but it also makes it last a little longer. We often use some vinegar in bread when we bake with just yeast instead of sourdough. It kind of resembles the taste of sourdough and is a bit of a sourdough cheat. So then I'm adding the flour in no specific order. And I make a bit of a dent here where I am adding the yeast, and this is where I measure. So it's about 1.5 package. It should come down to 11 to 12 grams. Okay, so here we are. I set aside the salt and the seeds. They will come in later. So if you're baking with a regular oven, you start kneading this right now for about 8 minutes. And then you will add the salt and the seeds and knead it until this is kneaded in for another 1 to 2 minutes. For my bread maker, I'm waiting until the bread maker gives me the signal, and then I will add the salt and the seeds. The settings for this bread are basic and a dark crust. After adding the seeds and the salt, I let this continue. Now, if you're baking in the oven, then you will let the dough proof after the mixing, and you let it proof until it has significantly increased in its size. It will probably not double, since some of these flours are a little more on the heavier side. However, it should be significantly larger than at the beginning, so let it proof for about an hour, and then you give it another knead. And then you'll put it into a loaf pan and let it rise again for about 20 to 30 minutes. After that, it goes into the oven. And here are the baking instructions. This has turned out really beautiful. When the bread has baked, it is best to take it out of the pan as soon as possible. So I am putting this down and I move the petals a little bit. It's really hot, so I'm using some cloth to not burn my hands. There you go. And you see that the petals are still in here. I will probably take them out later. And it's best to cool the bread on a cooling rack like this one here. This bread is really hot. And now comes the hardest part about bread baking. That is letting it cool completely before cutting it open. Because if I cut it open too early, it will just dry out. So I want the moisture to stay in the bread. And therefore, I really have to wait until it's completely cooled. Change of outfit. I was at the gym while the bread was cooling. I might have a red face right now. We had some endurance training. That was intense. However, I have deserved a good slice of bread now. So let me see. I've removed the petals. I did not forget them this time. And I'm just going to cut this open in the center and show you how it looks from the inside. Okay, so this is the bread from the inside. It's kind of dark. It's not a pumpernickel. A pumpernickel is something that I kind of baked in this recipe, but it's a very healthy dark bread. It's super delicious, and I'm going to have a slice right now. And like always, I'll have some cold butter on my bread. And this time, I'll show you what we also like to do in Germany with our bread. Still a tiny bit warm. Wow. So I put some chives on it. And this is salty butter. In Germany, we don't have salty butter. Then we just sprinkle some salt if we want to have a bread like that. So let me have a bite. It's just what I need after my workout. It's so good. It's so delicious. And let me also show you how I keep my bread fresh. So if I bake a bread and it's cooled completely, I use my wax cloth and I wrap it around and cover it like that. That's how I keep my bread fresh for a couple of days. So it takes a couple of days for us to eat that. We're just 3 people right now. And this is the way the bread doesn't get dry or stale. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching. Watch some more of my videos. I have plenty of bread recipes, but also other recipes. Thank you for watching.